Awesome.
So, hey everyone. So I'm here with Philip to speak about the skill and how does it work with Infrahub. For the one who don't know us, so Ben and Philip, I've been working for Housemil since 2023 now. I've been doing automation since 2013. I contribute on the Infrahub skill. I am the Infrahub MCP author based in Amsterdam. Philip.
And I'm a solutions architect with Opsmel. Been working in computer networks, building computer networks since 2009 and automating them since around 2017, full-time since around 2019. And then I helped build this demo here, and I'm based in Denver, Colorado.
Awesome. For the one who didn't follow the actuality, I would say the news we announced a couple of days ago, we finished our Series A. So if you didn't see it, you can check those posts on LinkedIn. The plan today, before doing the live demo, which is normally the goal of this live stream, we just put a couple of slides together to say actually what are the skills currently with LLM, what are they used for, what do you need them, or do they work with the rest? Then Philip will do the demo. We can pass on the QA part. So what are skills? So Anthropic had them around October last year. Before that, he was mainly, he was just doing prompt every time, and he was saying as like prompt engineering. In October, with the skill coming, you were able to have proper Markdown file in which you will be declaring any, I would say, convention and rule you want instead of having them directly as a prompt. You will have as well some extra validator file, so Python script, for example, which will be extra information. And I would say that's about it. Why does that matter? So as I say, before that, you were doing mainly prompting. So if you do a lot of prompt engineering, you end up with a massive context. You end up doing a lot of copy paste. And if you just want to use the same one every time, it's really painful. Second point is if you want to share it across a team, you will have to, I would say, give each other the prompt when if you have skill, they are just load on demand, not every time, so they don't stay in your context window for everything. It's testable. It's something you can share with other team members, so which make it more reliable in general. Which skill do we have for Infrahub? So at the end, we build for now 8 skill. We have like 1 or 2 more incoming, but I will not spoil it yet. The idea of the skill for Infrahub is to manage everything present in Infrahub. So from schema to object, passing by menu, check, and generators. We have as well a few extra one which is helping to analyze the data present in Infrahub with connecting for now with the MCP with the MCP we have with the MCP servers. The idea will be to use as well or CLI if you don't have a MCP. And the last one is about auditing our repository. So right now, if you're working a lot with Infrahub, you know you need certain file and certain way to declare, I would say transform generators definition. So this skill is for you. It will help you to confirm that everything present in your repository is exactly what you want. And Philip, I think the floor is yours for the demo.
Awesome. On to the demo. I'm going to share my screen real quick. Alrighty, are you able to see me okay?
Yeah.
Awesome, beautiful. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to do today is I'm going to initiate a new repository, new Infrahub repository, and I'm going to use the copier template to do this. This is at this URL right here. So if you go to GitHub optional Infrahub template, we have a template repo that allows you to instantiate a new Infrahub repo pretty easily. And actually, let me make sure that I am in the right repo before I do that. Oh, there we go. Beautiful. Call this Infrahub Skills demo. So this will use that copier tool, like I was saying, to initiate a new repo. And it's just going to walk us through a few prompts. This one is asking if I want starter configuration with objects enabled. And I'm not going to do that for this one, just because I want to build those objects from scratch using the Infrahub skills. But I am going to enable some of these other things. So support for the Infrahub object files. It'll basically create the repo structure for us. Generators, transforms, scripts directory, etc. Okay, cool. So we can see now we have this Infrahub skills demo folder here on the side. We have Claude here with just a settings.json, nothing too crazy there. This specify I'm going to delete for now. That's part of spec kit, which we're not using today. And the rest of this is all set up for Infrahub. Now, the first thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to install the skills. We're using npx as the skills package manager. There are a few ways to install it that are elucidated in the repo, but this is the simplest way, and it's basically just like a package manager for AI skills. And when I run this command here, you can see that it pops up and asks me what skills I want to select. So I'm going to grab all of these guys here. Hit enter, and then you can specify what agent you want to work with. I use Claude Code, so I'm just going to keep Claude Code specified, not specify any of the rest of them. The installation scope can be at the project level or at the global level. I'm going to go project here, and then you can copy to all agents or do the symlink. I'm going to do a symlink and proceed with installation. There we go. So you can see that the skills are now installed in my repo. And if I come here into the, oh, I installed those in the wrong repo. I'm sorry about that. Just go through that again. There we go. Cool. So now inside of my repo under Claude, you see that there's a skills repository here with all of our different skills. And they're actually symlinked from this agents file. So Claude skills, you can see that they're all symlinked here. So all these are going to agent skills. What's nice about that is that if you have a few different agents running, you can have the skills defined in a common place and then just symlink out to them, so you're not using extra space on your disk. Cool. So the first thing that I'm going to do with the skills is I'm going to build some schema, and I'm going to just go ahead and invoke Claude here. And I'm going to use dangerously skip permissions just so that we iterate quickly without having to enter in a bunch of like responses to Claude as we're iterating. Obviously, don't do that on a production instance, but we're doing this on a test instance, so I think it's fine. And then the first thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to prompt Claude, and I'm going to ask it what kind of skills we have. Come through, and you can see that it's locally finding all of the skills that we just installed using Infrahub. I have some other ones here that I've installed globally, superpowers, Cloud config, some other things, but these are the ones that we just installed. And now I'm gonna ask it, so I'm gonna say I'm gonna model a small network, and that I need a device with hostname and role, and interfaces which connect to each other via circuits. So just giving it a small amount of data to use here to model some schema. And actually, sorry, I'm realizing that I might be in the wrong repo still. No, I'm in the right repo. Sorry. All right. So here I'm asking it to stand up local Infrahub locally, then generate the schema locally in this schemas folder over here, and then use infrahubctl to apply that. And it's going to go on the back end and invoke the skill in order to understand how to do this correctly, how to generate the schema correctly, how to apply it using infrahubctl, etc. So we'll give it just a little bit of time as it goes about that. And that's serving nothing up just yet. Alrighty, so it's generated a little tasks list for us here. Starting Infrahub via Docker Compose, generate the schema files and schemas, and then it's going to validate them with this schema check here. You can see here, Infrahub managing schemas, it's coming up and saying that it's successfully loaded the skill. So it has that knowledge now in its context window. And here we go, writing schemas into the schemas / network.yaml, giving us a little information about what it's doing there. Pop into schemas here. You can see that we have some generated schema. We have device, interface, circuit, provider. So it's added all four of those, 160-ish lines of schema. And it's come back and said that Infrahub is now running. The schema is written. And then we've checked the schema. It looks like it didn't actually load it, but I'll double check that here real quick. So now localhost 8000 is loading. I'm gonna log out and log back in. There we go. And you can see we don't have anything kind of on the left-hand side here. If I go into my object management schemas, we have core, profile, built-in, IPAM, lineage. So nothing from our schemas just yet. Let me have Claude load those. I'm also going to have it generate some menu files so that we can navigate this on the left-hand side pretty easily. So I'm asking it to generate this in a network tab on the left-hand side and nest all of those schemas under it. You can see here we've loaded this Infrahub managing menus skill as well. So Claude and any AI agent with the skills installed is smart enough to understand that it has a skill for this based on the prompt that you give it, and then automatically load and use that skill. Generated some menus here. And it's going into the schema. You can see that it understands like Infrahub specifics because it's actually going into the schema and setting this include in menu to false so that it can load the menu that it's defining here, which is like a schema primitive in Infrahub. Cool. So now it says that it's all loaded. Pop back over. I'm gonna reload this page here. So now we have a network tab on the side here with all of our schemas in it. There's no data yet because we haven't populated anything, but all of the schemas are there. And I can come into object management here as well, go into my schemas, and we can see that we now have a network tab here with the 4 schemas that we've defined. So that is pretty cool. The next thing that I'm going to do is have it load some objects in here. And I'm just going to copy my prompt for brevity. So I'm going to have it create a couple of routers, one in Denver and one in Amsterdam, each with one interface. And then I'm going to have it connect them back to back with a circuit on each end in this subnet. We want an MTU of 9,000 on both sides. And I'm going to tell Claude to do this using object files and then use infrahubctl to load those. So here, this is going to come into my objects file and start to create some things. And you can see we have loaded this skill Infrahub managing objects. So it's pulling that into its context window intelligently. And you'll notice that before we weren't doing anything with objects, so it didn't load this skill. It's only loading the skill when we actually have a prompt that makes it want to load some objects in there. Cool. You can see we've now gone ahead and added all of these objects in here. It's generated, and then it's loaded these guys successfully. So I can come back over into Infrahub. I'm gonna reload real quick and make sure that we have those. So in devices, we have an Amsterdam router and we have a Denver router. If I pop into Denver here, you can see we have a host name and a role, a single interface. This single interface is associated with that Denver router. It has a circuit in here, name, the MTU is 9,000, and we've correctly configured that IP address. And if I pop over to this circuit, you see we have 2 endpoints. We have the Ethernet interface on the Amsterdam router and the one on the Denver router. I'm going to go into the Amsterdam side just to see the traversal here. So on this side, we have 10.0.0.1. So it looks like it loaded all of this correctly to me, which is pretty neat. The next thing that I want to do here is go ahead and have it build me a Jinja2 transform. So in Infrahub, we have the idea of artifacts. So if I come into one of these devices here, the artifacts tab isn't showing up yet because we don't have an artifact rendered for it, but we can use the data in Infrahub to dynamically render like a configuration for this device. And then an artifacts tab will show up that has the configuration for the device in here. So I'm going to go ahead and prompt Infrahub to generate that artifact for us using a Jinja2 transform. So write a Jinja2 transform that generates per interface config for a router host name, then interface name, description, MTU, IP address for each interface. And then I'm going to have it show me the output here. Let's go ahead and do that. And from an Infrahub perspective, all of this is stitched together in this infrahub.yaml file. And you can see that Claude just went and updated this infrahub.yaml file with a few things. So one is a GraphQL query. This GraphQL query is used to grab data from Infrahub and then provide that as input to the transform. The second one that it's created is a template path, this Jinja2 template, and it is using this query that it generated in order to provide data into this template and then render the template per device. And all that should be on the side here. So if we look at the queries in here, we have this router config. So it's dynamically generated this GraphQL query to grab data. And if we take a look at our Jinja2 transform, we have this transform slash router config.j2. And you can see it's generated this Jinja2 transform for us as well. And then here's the output for Denver router 01. We have the host name interface with MTU and IP address. And if we added more interfaces, we would iterate in a for loop over those interfaces. So that's pretty cool. Now let's go to the UI and see. Now the transform needs to be in a Git repository that's integrated with Infrahub in order for it to show up here. So the artifact isn't actually rendered here, it just rendered it via the CLI. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Claude generate a Gitea instance and actually deploy what's in this repo up to that Gitea instance and configure the integration with Infrahub so that it understands what is in the content of this Infrahub YAML and it can generate those artifacts dynamically. And you could even ask Claude um, why that's happening. So I could say, hi, Claude, seeing any artifacts. Hi. And when I ask the question, it'll come back and tell me exactly what's going on. And you can see that it's still using the skills in order to help answer these sorts of questions so that it gives you solid information. All right, so artifacts need a few things wired up, and none of them are in place yet. The repo isn't connected to the server. Network device doesn't inherit from core artifact target, etc. So I'm just gonna give it another prompt here to have it spin up a Git integration and then fix those things. All right, so it's going and doing all these things here. Starting by spinning up that Gitea instance here locally. Nice, Gitea is now created. Now it's creating the artifact. You can see it's done that in these local files here. It's moving on to reloading the schema so that we pick those changes up correctly. Okay, cool. And now it looks like it's doing some Git stuff here locally. So we're initializing this as a Git repo because I didn't Git init it before. And then we'll commit and push to Gitea. So now we're syncing in between that Git repository that we just initialized in Infrahub. You can see how it's just using infrahubctl to do a bunch of these things. So it's using UV to run the infrahubctl command, which it understands natively. I'll just browse the Infrahub UI here as we're going about that. So we now have an integration for Git repository. This wasn't here before. And you can see that we're syncing with this Git EA instance on port 3000, this Infrahub Skills demo.git. We've got all this configured and integrated. We have a transformation registered here. It's router config one. So that looks like it's working from the Git integration perspective. If I come back to my network devices, I'm curious now. Don't have the artifacts just yet, so it's still working on that. While it does this, I need a MCP server for the next step, so I'm going to go ahead and get that set up.
No fast forwarding in live streams.
Yeah, no fast forwarding in live demo mode. Let's see if that's come up yet. There we go. Okay. So you can see we have an artifacts tab here now for this router config. This is on the Amsterdam router, and it's generated this off of our Jinja2 definition. The same should be true for the other side. So if I go into the Denver side, we now have an artifact here as well. which is pretty cool. I think that Claude was just doing a little sleep 5, so that might be why it was taking a little bit of time. Cool. I'm actually just going to have it stop here because we verified that the artifact's rendered. Okay, yeah, it's gonna do that. Cool. All right, so it verified that both artifacts are ready. Now it's checking the content. Everything's wired and pipeline is producing artifacts end to end. Awesome. That's pretty sweet. Okay, cool. So the next thing that I'm going to do while our Infrahub MCP server sets up is I'm going to introduce an error here, and I'm going to go into my network devices. And on the Amsterdam side, Ethernet interface, I'm actually going to edit this interface, and I'm going to change it to 10.0.0.5 instead of 10.0.0.1 so that the two ends of the circuit aren't in the same subnet. So that's been updated there. And once MCP loads here, I'm going to use the analyst skill to use the MCP server. It's going to query the MCP server and do some analysis on the data inside of Infrahub so that we can see what's going on and if we have any circuits with misconfigured IP addresses. So I'm going to use this prompt here. It looks like it's doing a smoke test of MCP. Beautiful. It's confirmed that that's working. And it's created this MCP JSON blob. It's saying that's run into a bug here, which I know about. We have a PRN to fix that. So I'm going to exit out of Claude and then relaunch just so that it picks up this mcp.json correctly. And now it has access to that MCP server. And then I'm going to pass in this prompt to say, hi, Claude, can you find any back-to-back interface pairs where the two ends are not in the same subnet? And I actually just found a bug here right before this webinar where it wasn't passing the args from my context here. So I'm telling it to do that, but that'll be patched here in just a couple of hours.
I'm sticking around for you to vibe code live stream the fix for that as
The
well.
fixes.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, cool. So this guy should use the MCP server in the Infrahub analyst skill in order to do this here. Looks like it's so it's found its pairs here. And it looks like it used the skill, but it went and used a GraphQL query to do that, which I guess is fine.
if you do ctrl plus O, you can see more detail, but I think he used the query with the MCP.
You're saying do command plus O. Oh,
Control O.
control O. Aha, here we go.
You get the detail, and you see he did the query GraphQL with the MCP.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Huh.
What's interesting as well here with the MCP is we didn't tell him what is the interface, what is a device, which is currently the case with him. If you decide to call you device, infra device, or DCM device, it will not be the same query. So he fetch from Infrahub the schema, understand which model is the closest to your question, before be able to fire the question itself to Infrahub.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, all this is pretty cool. It intuitively understands Infrahub, how to make the queries, what an interface is, etc., just like Benoit was saying. And it does it all kind of right from the get-go, which is great. You know, if you've played with something like Claude, a lot of times, you know, you kind of have to hammer on it to make it understand what a correct schema is. It'll iterate and iterate and iterate until it gets it correct. But what's cool about these skills is that it has built-in knowledge about exactly how to use Infrahub, how to write the schemas, how to do these things so that it does it correctly the first time and can answer questions correctly for you. And yeah, it was pretty neat. I think that's all for the demo here. So Benoit, I'll go ahead and pass it back to you unless we have any questions.
I got a quick question. How do people find the skills?
You too fast, Pete. We have a few questions first on our side. Because there is some question we didn't reply in the introduction, which is what's the difference between a skill and an MCP server? We spoke about skill and prompt. And on this, you see a lot of time MCP described as the new USB-C for API, one standard to communicate. So it's the MCP is the connection to your service, but he's not telling your LLM what to do. So the skill is above to say, okay, you should do it this way, and the MCP will be, I can provide the connection to live data. So they work together side by side, and they're not like especially fighting each other. Compared to some article you can find online when they are open, put, I would say, in opposition. I have one for, I will put the second question to Philip. Philip, how can I write my own skill?
You can dog food it. So the way that I have written skills is I go and talk to Claude and ask it to write a skill for me. And then I test it and iterate. You can write your own skills and have them be local, that are your own, that aren't Infrahub related, or that are Infrahub related that you don't want to share. Or if you want, you could contribute to our skills. We have our GitHub repo, which is github.com/opsmill/infrahub-skills. Please feel free to open PRs there for any skills that you would like to see or issues for skills that you'd like to see. We'd love to continue to iterate on that. And then also, if you're using the skills and you run into something where it's like, oh, it didn't do that, you know, like quite like I was expecting, please submit an issue or a PR so that we can iterate on all this.
One case I've seen where people take our existing skills, then go and extend them, is to try and do opinionated things about how they want to name things, for example, schema names inside their own organization if they're doing custom. schema development. So that would be a good case for taking our skills and extending it.
Good one. What's on my side, I will say an easy way to write skill and improve them is to use another skill provided by Anthropic, which is skill creator. So you have a skill to help you create skill. It's very handy because it's always up to date on some of the best practice.
I'll
Other
also note that we copied Vercel's pattern for their skills. So the way that skills are loaded, you have some metadata about the skill, and the metadata is loaded every time that Claude runs so that it understands the basic outline of the skill. And then you have that metadata is encapsulated in a skill.md. And if it goes to invoke the skill, it'll read the skill MD. And then Vercel did something clever where they link out to all of these other files that have like specific examples, specific ways to use the skill. So as it's trying to do something specific, like trying to load a specific type of schema, like a generic schema or whatever, in Infrahub's case, it'll go and look at the specific file that correlates with that. So it's intelligently loading that through context memory. So as you're creating skills, you can point it to Vercel's project or our project, and it'll understand how it's doing that introspection to be able to write the skill efficiently.
Does it work with other LLM? Pete.
Ooh, yes, but so skills in general can work with effectively any LLM. What I've found is iffy these days is that point that Philip just mentioned here on invoking skills. So the ideal case is that when you're speaking to your, through your prompt, you end up saying that you want to work on Infrahub schema, and it's the invocation that is iffy. So how does the LLM discover whether or not it should invoke a specific skill? With Claude, that seems to work quite well with the skills that we developed. With other LLMs, let's call this, there isn't quite industry standard behavior here that's happening at this point. And so use the skill with Codex, with GitHub Copilot, but what you end up having to do is explicitly then make sure that you call the skill so that it gets invoked. Otherwise, sometimes you'll find out that it isn't used, and you'll just watch the LLM burn tokens trying to figure things out on its own.
The other thing that I can add there is that if you use the npx install method, it didn't show up on my local environment because I've done it before, but after it goes to install, there's this find skills skill that it'll go and install to try and corral the LLMs to use the skill as best as possible. So that's also helpful with if you use the npx install method, it gives a little bit better results there as well.
We had some prepared question on prompt injection and safety. As you saw, all the different skills we have are, I would say, writing locally, and then you will still end up against the API of Infrahub. So for that, you will use your own token. So it's not like you could inject everything or anything. And if we spoke about the MCP itself, you will have some authentication as well in it. So safety-wise, you are not injecting anything, I will say, without any type of protection for authentication. And I don't think we have some concern with, I would say, a third party trying to inject data in your usage in the skill itself. There is some more information on the MCP servers, but this live stream is about the skills, so I will let them for another one. Either we have writing feature on the MCP, and it's as Infrahub itself, branch away.
Yeah, that's a really good point, right? Outside the scope of this live stream, but One of the beauties of Infrahub is the branching capability. So when you go and you want to make changes, be it manually, be it through skill development to end up changing your schema, or through the MCP server, you're always making changes in branches and you can review it. So you don't have to worry about necessarily affecting your production environment. What's next?
Last one is how evaluation works. I think it was from your question, Philip.
What was that one? How evaluation works?
Yes.
How evaluation of the skill works. I guess that's the context that I just explained of how it evaluates whether your question correlates to a skill. It'll use the metadata to initially do a little bit of evaluation and see, does your prompt match up with the skills metadata.
Oh, good. I thought we were evaluating Philip's performance on a live stream.
And I think if we have no more extra question, we finish. Oh, we forgot to add the QR code. Bad luck for the slide. So you have in our documentation, so doc.infra.apps/skill, you could find all the documentation relating to our skill. You have the GitHub repository. You can install it with the npx command as Philip showed. If you look in our documentation, you will find other way to install it, depending of your LLM. For example, Claude, you could do the plugin and community install directly. What's next for you? It's install it, try it, and please send us feedback.
Cool, excellent. Thanks everyone for joining the live stream. Thanks, Philip. Thanks, Benoit. And you know where to find us on our Discord server. You can go to opsmill.com and track us down there. We'll see you on the next one.